Okay, Paige Listerud with ChicagoTheaterBlog, and we're back. And basically, I wanted to ask you, Nat, like you had read this play, somehow spotted this play years before, and you loved it. And this is a very tough, multi-layered satire to do. You have to love it into being.
Yeah.
So what made you love it? What made you commit yourself so much to it?
I did find this at the point where we were still considering Arthur Miller as our 2010 playwright. And I did find it in the Chicago Public Library and had never heard of it before, and pulled it out thinking, Arthur Miller play, I've never heard of it before, I should give it a read. And fell in love with it really quickly on the first or second read, and started also really quickly to see the difficulty and the challenge of it. And what I got really interested in, what I think really makes the play come alive, is that it is a very powerful exploration of really big ideas about faith and about politics and about media in a very contemporary setting. And it is a very silly comedy and satire. And I think in the first few times that I read it, I kept wrestling with how does this need to be one or the other? Or how does this need to split between the two and be able to work as one or the other? It's a real difficult kind of tone to figure out. And I think what really broke it open for me was putting my faith in Arthur Miller and thinking what this really needs to be is to be both, and to be fully honored both as a spiritual exploration of big ideas and as a laugh-out-loud comedy, and to really fully honor Miller's intentions of what he wanted to do exploring this. I felt like it was important that the production be able to do both at the same time. And going through rehearsals, that turns out to be very difficult to do. And there's lots and lots of challenges that he set up in the writing of this, and I think it may have been easier as a writer to settle on a spiritual exploration drama or a contemporary satire, and I think in really pushing it to be both at the same time, there's something that Miller was really deliberately trying to explore and trying to force audiences to explore in seeing the absurdity of the satire while thinking through these big ideas. And I loved that, and I love the idea of being able to really fully commit to both of those things artistically throughout the process. It was just a blast for us.
One of the things that I wanted to ask about the whole rehearsal process, and all three of you can try to address this if you can. It is a play about failing. I mean, things in this third world, anonymous third world country are failing. And failing big. It's not just a little mistake or a little setback. I mean, they're all failing big, and they could go down even worse. And I was just thinking about the Old Vic production in 2006 of Resurrection Blues, and that was artistic director was Kevin Spacey, and director Robert Altman, and they had big name stars, and they failed. They really, really failed. They flopped. So were you all kind of handling, like, what are the things that can go wrong while we're rehearsing this, and what needs to get cleaned up, what needs to get sharpened up, so that it doesn't flop and fail and drag and be something that like they saw at the Old Vic in London.
Yeah. One of the interesting things about Eclipse is because of the dramaturgical focus that we have and really researching and exploring the playwright. I did not have the option that I think a lot of directors would have taken, which is to not tell the cast about the bad reviews that this had gotten in the past.
Except for those of us who do no research.
We already, oh wow, we already knew about it. The cast had already seen them. That was already a part of the conversation by the time we started, and so we kind of had to not pretend that this hadn't happened, and so I think, certainly in my mind as a director, I felt like there were some specific things that I had read about the London production that I thought were potential pitfalls that we wanted to try and stay away from. we knew that we were going to be walking this really careful line of how far can you play the comedy, how big can you be, how kind of over the top can you play moments, and trying to keep them grounded in some kind of reality so that it didn't become just an over-the-top vaudevillian kind of circus of a play, which I think is one of the ways in which it can fail. I think, oh no, I just lost that thought. Maybe you can pick it up and run with it for me.
Well, I mean, a lot of it was, I remember we did have rehearsals where we tried, you have to kind of find where the line is. You have to kind of find where the boundaries are. I remember there are times in the first scene with Felix and Henry, Matt and Ron are, kind of both playing where the relationship is, who's, as far as comedic characters, who's the foil, who's the straight man, who's the buffoon. And I mean, it took a while. I mean, it was a very difficult thing because the way the script is you have one line that's making you laugh, and the next line, especially when it comes to Felix, I mean, is full of a lot of menace and venom and the possibility of some awfulness could happen really in a moment's notice. And so yeah, I mean, I think we just really kind of, I don't know, there was always a safety net that we could, just kind of explore where that zone was. And we as actors felt it. We could feel when we were going way too far. It was being too big. And it was like, all right, now I'm not even believing it. I'm not laughing at myself. So I think that was the trick to it, and then just slowly bringing it back down to making it real and, finding those, especially in this play, the really quiet moments that then have that resonant power.
This means a lot of really funny bits that we worked out in rehearsal that ended up not being a part of the show. Which, in a sense, it's a shame because we had, there were great little laughs and great little moments and great little comedic bits, but they fell in places that took us away from the seriousness of the story, the weight of the ideas. And I think making sure that it stayed grounded in a reality and that the stakes for these people are enormously high. As you said, the country is failing. These people are failing as individuals. There's a sense of what it is that they're up against in their lives and in this political world and in this spiritual world. And I think really playing those stakes and making them real was what was essential for us in rehearsals.
Well, and I think of the character General Felix Barrio especially, and the way that Matt Weltham plays him is just the perfect balance of, like you say, that menace, but also this manic, I know it's not going to work. I can be as brutal as I want to be. It's not going to, change anything. It's not going to make anything better. And there is it's balanced out by, sure, he might, if he gets $75 million from the network, he might take off a little bit to pay for his apartment in New York or whatever, but it will go to make the plumbing better or something. Something will get fixed up in the country that he wasn't able to fix up before, So that he's brutal, he's awful, he wants everything to happen his way, and that the fact that he wants to achieve something, kind of humanizes him a little bit, It's nobody gets to be a total villain in this show, and that's quite interesting from a Arthur Miller, liberal lefty point of view,
Well, and I think, in going through what you said about, a lot of the theme being failure, I think also, I think one of the things that resonates with me, especially in this play, is a lot of it, even though it's put far away, it seems very much, it was written in 2002, so you've got the Guthrie production in 2002, 2003, and then the old Vic production. But you look at the themes that he's talking about, and, these are themes that have a lot to do with current American society, about failure in American society, failure of our politicians, failure of our religious beliefs, our religious institutions, our media, just being just grabbing at anything to keep our attention on the little smallest things. The whole explanation of the crucifixion could go for 5 hours and we're going to throw these awful advertisements into it. Because how else are we going to keep people watching this? Because they're going to be like, okay, well, I've seen Faces of Death 1,000 times. But Viagra, it's a new Viagra commercial, So, I think a lot of that is, it's his comment on that, the American system is beginning to fail. And I think that's what the power of the play is right there.
I think it's tricky because not only do you have this balance, going on between going over the top and being just, comedic